All right, I'm just gonna kick off the why the project and then I'll hand it over to Chris. So first, I'm sure everyone here has heard of LeanIX. I don't think so. So we were founded in 2012 over in Bonn, Germany. We've been in the Americas, actually in Watertown, for about 6 years now. So globally, we're over 1,000 customers. In the Americas, which is the team I own, we're about 370 customers, so both North America, South America. In terms of a net promoter score, does anyone know what that means yet? So that's a score that you ask your customers, hey, how are we doing? On a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being the best, 0 being the worst, would you rate us to a friend? Would you recommend us to a colleague? How are we doing with you, right? Both our product, our support team, our customer success team, are we being helpful? Are you seeing value out of the platform? On the average for SaaS, 31 is the average. 50 is an amazing score. Our public record right now is our website says about 70. We're really about a 74. So customers love us. In terms of number of employees, globally, we're 500 people. Majority is obviously in EMEA, so in Germany. In the Americas, we're about 110. Majority are in the Watertown office, yet we're remote. I have people in San Fran, Brazil, Texas, Arizona, Washington, people are all over now. Before COVID, that wasn't the case. COVID taught us that there's smart people everywhere, so we started to branch out and hire more people. What do? So we like to call ourselves Google Maps for software. Who here has used Apple Maps, Google Maps? What does it make you do? Well, how's it help you? How's it help you?
Oh, it just guides me around the city.
Okay. So if you want to go from Back Bay to North End, it gives you directions, right? It tells you 4 o'clock rush hour, what streets to go on, what streets not to go on, right? Gives you an idea. Boston has 23 neighborhoods, 23, 26, right? How to get from one to the other. Equate that to an enterprise organization like Pfizer, Adidas, Volkswagen, Discover. It tells you, hey, what applications are they running on all their computers, right? Who has an iPhone? How many apps do you have?
20, 30 probably.
But anyone have more?
A
A lot more. How much do you think Adidas has as an organization? So the average company that large has about 5,000 to 8,000 applications, right? So they don't understand or know what applications are running where. We help centralize that information, right? We can categorize, hey, your HR department is running these 75 applications. Here's which ones are running well, here's which ones are running poor, right? So we help give them a centralized view of what they're actually running, because surprisingly, these big organizations have no idea. So this is just a look in terms of, hey, if we look at HR, finance, all the different departments of an organization, we're able to give each department an understanding of what systems are running. And then we also have the ability to say, hey, are they running well? Are they useful? Are the people using those applications, do they like them, yes or no? And we can kind of color code some sentiment, some feedback based on usage, based on cost, based on if people find value in that platform. So that's the business side. The IT side is kind of the underneath those streets. What's underneath streets? And the answer is over here. Sewer system, electrical, water pipes, gas lines. That's kind of the under the Google Maps, right? We're able to do that as well. What's under an application? Hey, hardware, software, servers, services. Is it in the cloud? Is it on-prem? We kind of understand what's underneath and helping to run that application. And this is where we kind of tied into Chris into the project, right? So the question is, hey, why is that important? So if we look at, just, hey, an application, it could have at least 20, if not more, hardware, software components, right? Could be running a multiple database service. So how do you understand if one of these are approaching end of life, right? So servers have a shelf life, right? They have a support life. If you have a server, it could be, hey, it'll last about 3 years, and then you need to replace. Well, how do you identify what's at risk of being out of date, end of life in about 3 years? So we can do that. We know that, hey, this one right here is end of life next year. Instead of being caught off guard next year and having an issue, why don't we replace it now, right? So we can do that at this level. We can't do that at the application level. And so that's kind of where Chris walked in and said, hey, help us connect the two, right? Companies like Pfizer, Volkswagen, Adidas have all asked us to do this. It's on our product backlog, right? We have 19 product teams working on a ton of stuff. They don't find this important. I do for my customers, and that's why I pulled it first.
Yeah, so I guess my project started off with the idea about we have a company with tons of data, and our question is how can we put that data in a very easy to understand report where the report can kind of be handed off to executives and they can make quick decisions fast, right? And so if you think about it, a company like Adidas has so many applications that and generate so much data that an engineer has to be able to index this data and process this data, do some calculations with this data, and then return a square pixel box that says good or bad. So it is a lot of work in terms of processing data. What we did was we used Vue, which is a JavaScript framework, and GraphQL, which is an indexing language for indexing large data sets and knowing exactly what the data is. And we developed a special interface where we can basically get the aggregated risk of all these IT components and spew out that data box that says, hey, you should look at this, or hey, this has some life expectancy. So for example, if you take something like maybe AWS server that's running a piece of software that's approaching its end of life, my task was to figure out, is that piece of software or the server going to be out of life first, or is that piece of software going to be out of life first, and what type of threat does that pose to the company? And so much problems for companies come from data breaches or end of life obsolescence, where applications hit their end of life and break. Companies that use software like LeanIX are being proactive in preventing those things and working towards implementing solutions before the problems even happen, which in the long term should save you tons of money. And yeah, so I work very closely with an engineer that was able to help me develop and push some code that hopefully will be available for different people in the marketplace to use in their own businesses. And if you think about it, designing something that can be plugged into any data set, any company's data set, and just downloaded and implemented and generated a report for, has to require certain structures, certain like computations that can take in multiple cases. So overall, it was a fantastic use of my time. It was such a good learning experience, and definitely thankful for the opportunity. But yeah, I think we're good.
Yeah, questions?
Yeah.
Questions for Chris or Bob about their work for their project?
What did your typical week look like related to this kind of work?
So mostly it was independent development. So I would consult a associate called Paolo. He was an engineer, and he would walk and help me through. He would basically create milestones for me, and those milestones were like create a recursive function that calls that indexes and finds this parameter, and then we'd work up and to a point where it's like, okay, we can apply this to a real query, which is like an actual call from a database that gets the real data and then process that information. So it's a lot of independent work. I enjoy it. I like personally behind a computer, it's pretty fun for me, so I don't mind it at all. But yeah.
Chris, what was the most challenging piece of this for you?
Most shocking, I think definitely the learning curve. So if you're at Bentley, I think the courses here will give you a good stepping stone, but you really have to be independent and take the time to learn like what's being used in the industry. So for example, the framework that we use, I think there's one class here that teaches introductory HTML, JavaScript, CSS, and that's only like, you can't take the class and expect to be ready to go in the, I guess, real world. So you got to invest a lot of time learning on your own and then taking on online courses that supplement that learning. But it's a good start. And if you're inspired to do that, I mean, you can just continue with it and yeah, just figure out what's used in the industry.
So Brian talked about courses that he took here that were beneficial to him, that he was able to apply his knowledge from asking the same questions, other than CS213, which is our web development course, for HTML, JavaScript, and the CSS. What other courses did you hear or other experiences from that we were able to apply in your with
I think the 215, and I think the courses you brought up, along with any database course or any just programming course in general, like object oriented, you're forced to think in a way that you're gonna eventually have to think in, and it's kind of synonymous across any line of software engineering you do. And I guess the most important thing though, as business students, is like you need to understand a little bit just so you can communicate. And Bob likes to say like every company is a tech company, and it's true. Like if you can't understand the tech and you can't grasp it and communicate in a way that other people can understand, you're losing out on, I guess, an edge, right?
Curious, what was your biggest surprise getting to work with, kind of live data from the wild as opposed to something in a classroom?
A lot goes into like setting up the environment where you could just get in that, like, I mean, in a classroom, it's kind of given to you right away, but a lot goes on to the environment. You have a lot of tests and unit side tests that are just annoying. So it's like you got to figure out a way around them, and like you think you're done, but like you got like 8 more tests to go, and like you're not done. So I mean, it's good. It's definitely a lot more practical, which is awesome, right?
Same question for Bob. What how does this project evolve in ways that you may or may not have expected?
Yeah, I think similar problem is fitting it into one semester. I mean, if we cut it short last semester, it was a fantastic start, but I think that's all the foundation and knowledge building. And then this semester is really, you see the value, right? You being more productive. The project was meant to be a lot of more, hey, self-driven. Here's what you need to kind of educate yourself on, given you're a college student, fit it into your schedule, meet with us once a week or twice a week if you need to. But here's the assignments and milestones. And then what I was pleased about is every time we had those, it wasn't a, hey, this was a deprioritized in my life. I was too busy. It was like kind of, yeah, I did that. Plus I did a little bit more, right? So it was all kind of overachieving each milestone, which was like, again, I went to Bentley as well. It's like, good to see. And that was encouraging. And it kind of thought, okay, this is something we definitely want to do again. Try to make the project into a semester. It's very hard to make a real life project into a semester outside of you just want to get my dry cleaning copy, but that's not a good use of time, right? So I think the full semester engagement is a lot better.
Full year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that we hadn't thought about when the actual year that started this year, but look at both these guys. Any other questions? I want to ask some of you. Have any of you thought about doing internships, and what from the stories that you heard from Ryan and Chris might make you think that about the kind of internships that you would be looking for?
Pardon?
What's your name?
Steven.
Steve again.
I mean, yeah, I've definitely thought about internships. I'm only freshman, but I think it's really cool doing it during the school year. Like I've only ever thought of doing it in the summer term or whatever. I think that's really cool because we're able to integrate it with your studies and build like on top of these skills, but time management skills and like seeing how the real world can apply to your schoolwork and whatnot. So I think that's open my eyes for people.
What's your name? What's your name?
Sahil.
So please speak loudly so we can.
Yeah. So, I mean, internship is actually a really good experience to get. I mean, when you get to hands-on experience about learning something that you have only seen through your eyes, but when you actually get to put in the work, it's something that gets ingrained in your brain, like, okay, this is how it actually works. And then you gain a better sense of understanding of how it works. So when it comes to explaining other people, it becomes more easier for you to talk about it as well.
So what Ryan and Chris didn't tell you is that they took this internship on as well as, or in addition to the time they spent here as tutors in Sandbox. And we actually built this internship program in as part of their duties here in the Sandbox. And so, which makes this particular opportunity much different from any other internship that anybody else will get on campus. And that's pretty much thanks to Libby and Brian and Bob, who were able to sponsor these programs this year.
And your professor for finding everyone. The reason.
And Libby for hours getting the forms approved. What other things did you learn from their experiences that you look for in your own internships in the future? Anything else?
The learning curve that Chris was talking about, and it's something that I look forward to when I'm having my first internship experience.
What type of work are you guys interested in doing? Do you have any ideas for what type of things? I mean, you haven't really. Yeah, I mean, that's okay if you don't. But it helps us figure out projects.
Me personally would be more of a financial services industry, but I mean, being open to like this, opened my eyes a lot. It's pretty interesting. Definitely would make me kind of second guess that a little bit.
Cool. What about you? Yeah, I don't know, what's your name?
Benson,
Benson.
what was the question?
What kind of internship might you want to see? And what from what you heard about these experiences opened your eyes to something you might not have thought about?
Yeah, so I'm looking for an internship that it would probably go along the lines of data analytics, investing in somewhere. I already talked to Goldman Sachs for this summer. But hearing these two presentations, it really brought like an opening to how important this type of software and understanding what goes into these applications and how resourceful it is. And like you said, it gives you an edge over other people if you're able to know this. So I think that's very important for obtaining one of these internships or especially a job for the future.
Thank you. Last chance for folks online. Stop here if you are online, and I know you are. Please make sure you scan the QR code that's on the screen. Or it should be on my background. So that we know you're here. And I think I spotlighted that for everybody. And fill out the form for that. And everybody here, thanks for coming. Please take potato chips.
Yeah.
We have to use them up. We have to eat them. And remember next week in La Cava in the EDR at 2:00, you get to meet Spot the Robot and Chris and Chad Wright, who's from Boston Dynamics. Thanks everybody.